Hello, everybody. I've talked about Charlie Kirk here a little bit. Um, I'm hearing all sorts of stuff, about different things, and there's something that I did not hear. There's somebody saying that Mondani, the guy in New York, is running for governor over there, or mayor, or whatever he's running for, is friends with the head of the Islamic something and is calling for a jihad and all this stuff, which I don't believe that for a second because let me tell you, I wouldn't know about that if I seen it. And you got all these, well, you may as well call them right wingers. You may as well call them extremists. But I want to put it clear, when I said conservative, now I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of a moderate. But um, this thing with Charlie Kirk is something that I think is the truth of what really happened because I've seen the shell casing on the roof of the just one single casing on the rooftop. I haven't found it, but I've seen it, seen a picture of it. And then they say they found the weapon in the woods uh, with all the shell casings in it, even the spent one. And this was a bolt action, so you have to pull the bolt back to do another one. So he probably did. It's probably, you know, and the way that this happened it's very weird because then an older guy they arrested when this happened, and he was saying shoot me, shoot me, shoot me, and all this chaos and everything else. And this thing is so weird because it and like the Trump one, you could see the guy running across the thing. You could see him on the roof. Plus, um, I seen a week before his life was taken, a Hamas spokesperson, and I did not. I don't look that stuff up, so I was able to even see him on YouTube. As I don't know, but I did, and he did not say anything about a jihad or anything like that. He was talking about Israel and how they were going to hell because they were uh, what they were doing in Gaza, which I believe that one, but I didn't see anything about that, America or anything like that. But I do know something about Utah. Utah is a Mormon state. Utah is very Zionist. That's where those two women that were torturing those kids and everything came from. And there's a lot of stuff going on in that church people don't really know about. I do because I used to be one. Not a person that believed in it. I joined because my ex husband did. But see, my aunt was one, and she's very zealous, and I didn't like them. I never fit in. I mean, I didn't, I never fit in. I mean, but after because I was not a person to go to church. I didn't go to church that often, so I was not an active member. And so I got on this, found out about because I'd done a lot of research. Got onto this one site. It says "Quit Mormon." It's lawyers that will get you off, and they cannot bother you after that. You're taking off their thing because They were always coming to me when they didn't go to anybody else, and I'd have wanted no part of it. So that's what I did. And also on their temples, they have inverted stars. They have the sun on there. They have this the eye horse or whatever they call it, the all-seeing eye, and their temple rituals are kind of weird. They chant and they they believe Jesus and Satan were brothers, and uh, there's a heavenly mother, and they all have a planet. Everybody's going to have a planet. It's really weird how Joseph Smith did that stuff, and he used kind of like witchcraft when he was doing all that stuff. Stuff is not real. And then I seen Joseph Smith's niece that was excommunicated from that church because she was doing research on certain things. They excommunicated her. This is an older lady, Smith, Ida. I think her name was Ida Smith. And Brigham Young was a big fat racist. I mean, you can look at his face and tell that. And he got out of doing something. Now, when they first went to Utah, he got out of unaliving all these people and let this one guy to take his punishment, which they shot the guy and stuff like that. So Mormon Church is Zionist because they believe the genealogy of a person. They believe that people can trace their ancestry back to Jerusalem or the tribes of Israel or any of that stuff. They believe that stuff. And like I told you before, and I think Jesus they said it pretty plain about that somebody like Esau married other people that were not their particular person type or their faith or whatever you want to call it. So after a while doing that, it loses its flavor as it goes down generation after generation. Just like I said before, I'm an American Indian. My dad was half, and it went down like that. Mine's down. I'm not half, so, but I do have that. But that being said, this is, I think that this was something that nobody wants to talk about. I mean, you're going to look at the left, and even Trump said it, and remember when I was talking about Mike Johnson going to Israel and standing on that, in the Mount of Olives, looking over at the mosque where the Temple Mount is. Right at that moment, when he's a Zionist, right at that moment, after Netanyahu came in there, visited Trump, this Epstein thing, because he blew up in a press conference at a journalist had asked about Epstein, and he jumped into him, and I never seen him do that. But he started to change, and then he comes on True Social and calls his supporters stupid because they're duped into believing what the other party is saying, which is another lie. And this time, after this poor guy here, then he brings up that leftist stuff, which they did do. That is true. They did do that, which is hatred, and it should stop. But I have not seen any of those people arrested for anything they did. They're not going to be held accountable for any of that. And that's where I draw the line because he ain't doing what he said he was going to do. All he's doing is making this country worse and worse and worse and worse. And now this young man here sadly lost his life because of some certain people, which Netanyahu's been on there bragging about how much of a friend he was. This and that, he was going to go over there to Israel and all this other stuff. Netanyahu came out before Trump did about him dying. And then you see this guy, IDF soldier, holding up a shell saying, "We loved you, Charlie." All that tells me is you're guilty. If you have to prove that hard that you're not the people say you are, then there's a problem. But I'll read you this. Now, AI says he did not have any contact with these, but I don't believe that either. Because anybody can put that stuff in there. Okay. Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer. Was frightened by pro-Israel forces before death, friend reveals. A Trump insider and longtime friend of Charlie Kirk tells the Gray Zone how the assassinated conservative leader's turning point on Israel influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. The source said anxiety spread within the Trump administration after an apparent Israeli spying operation was uncovered. Charlie Kirk rejected an early offer earlier this year from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a massive new infusion of Zionist money into his Turning Point USA organization, America's largest conservative youth association, according to a longtime friend. And I'll interrupt there. Netanyahu and Trump were talking about that too. Trump says, some of my MAGA base don't like this. And Netanyahu, how that goes. So, what does that tell you of the slain commentator speaking on the condition of anonymity? The source told the Gray Zone that the late pro-Trump influencer believed Netanyahu was trying to cow him into silence as he began to publicly, and he did too, just recently, publicly question Israel's overwhelmingly influence in Washington and demanding more space to criticize it. In the words of the leading up to the September 10th assassination, Kirk had come to loathe the Israel leader, regarding him as a bully. I would agree. So's Trump. The source said Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personal decisions and weaponize Israeli assets like billionaire donor Miriam Adelson to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. I know some of you would believe this. According to Kirk's friend, who also enjoyed access to President Donald Trump and his inner circle, Kirk strongly warned Trump last June against bombing Iran on Israel's behalf. Charlie was the only person who did that, they said, recalling how Trump barked at him in response, angrily shut down the conversation. The source believes the incident confirmed in Kirk's mind that the President of the United States had fallen under the control of malign foreign power and are leading the country into a series of disastrous conflicts. By the following month, Kirk had become the largest of the sustained private campaign of intimidation, free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu, figure described in an interview with Jewish leaders and stakeholders. He was afraid of them, the source emphasized. I wish he hadn't went to frickin' Utah, because Mitt Romney is a congressperson there too. I mean, his dad used to be the governor here. At Tulsa, the rift with Israel widens. Kirk was 18 years old when he launched Turning Point USA 2012. From the inception, his career was popularized by Zionist donors who showered young organization with money through neoconservative outfits like the David Horowitz Freedom Center. He repaid his wealthy backers over the years by unleashing a relentless fire hose of anti-Palestinian and Islamophobic diatributes, accepting propaganda trips to Israel, and sternly shutting down nationalist forces challenging the support for Israel during TPUSA events in the Trump era. Few American Gentiles had proved more valuable to the self-proclaimed Jewish state than Charlie Kirk. But as Israel's genocide assault on the besieged Gaza Strip drove an unprecedented backlash within grassroots right-wing circles, where only 24% of younger Republican now sympathize with Israel over the Palestinians. Kirk began to shift. At times, he told the Israeli line spreading disinformation about babies beheaded by Hamas on October 7th and denying the famine imposed on the population of Gaza. Yet the simultaneously ceded to his ceded his view, wondering about if Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli intelligence asset, questioning whether the Israeli government allowed the October 7th attacks to proceed in order to advance long-term political goals and parroting narratives familiar to his most ferocious critic on the right, uh, streamer Nick Fuentes. This July, at this Turning Point USA Student Action Summit, Kirk provided a forum for the right-wing grassroots to vent its fury about Israel's political hammerlock on the Trump administration. There are speakers from former Fox News stalwarts Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly to the anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith denounced Israel's blood-soaked assault on the besieged Gaza Strip, branded Jeffrey Epstein as the Israeli intelligence aid asset, and openly besieged Gaza Strip, branded Jeffrey Epstein as an Israeli intelligence asset, and openly taunted Zionist billionaires like Bill Ackman for getting away with scams despite having no actual skills. Now, this I know to be true. Trump is like freaking right there with Netanyahu. Right there. He was the last time. Netanyahu stabbed Trump in the back the last administration after Trump wasn't elected. He's a backstabber. And I owe nothing to any of these people. My allegiance is Jesus Christ and my Father in heaven. And it's a sad thing that, and also he belonged to a megachurch in Arizona. It's called Dream City. So, and they had mentioned that he was offered some money and he refused it in a video on their site. So, anybody who says any difference is full of it, because it's the pastor even said it. So, there's my view on that. But I know a lot of people I don't have a lot of people on my channel, but the people I do have on my channel know that this is this is this is right. So with that said, people, they're crazy. I mean, they sold their souls. What they did, sold their soul. And I'm not talking just about the right. I'm talking about the left too. And Trump calls the Epstein thing a hoax. It's all made up by Democrats. Yeah, if it was made up by Democrats, how come it happened when he was in there? That's bullcrap. I would say that this young man they arrested somehow is going to disappear. Plus, you're not going to hear too much more about it. They're going to bury this one like they did the last one. So, anyway, like they do everything else, they don't want you to know about. But anyway, with that said, take care of yourself. God bless you all. And Jesus loves you. And pray for this young wife and her children. It's sad. I lost my dad when I was 7. It's sad. But with that said, God bless, peace and love.